We're out on the Zodiac this morning with Dr. Daniel Moore and Holly Kelsner from the science team, and following up on watching the ROV that we put together in the science lab to see what we can see underwater. We sailed north overnight. We're here in the South Shetland Islands at Half Moon Island that Dr. Daniel explained to me is an extinct volcano. We're in a caldera, so I'm calling it the Santorini of Antarctica, which is the extent of my scientific commentary. Dr. Moore, thank you for joining us, Daniel, and showing off your toy. I hate to call it a toy. It's such a wonderful instrument. It's all yours to tell us what's happening.
You can call it a toy. It's a toy to us. It's fun. It may be science and it's serious science, but it's still fun, so I don't mind.
Okay, great.
Santorini of the sea is a really good description. So,
good.
Of the Antarctica. Half Moon Island is exactly as you'd expect. It's in the shape of a half moon, a very thin crescent moon. And we're here just off one of the tips of that moon shape, and actually it continues underwater. So even though the land disappears, the actual outer rim of the crater continues in a long ridge out to sea, sticking out from the island. And what we discovered last year with our baited camera deployments in this area was that these shallow waters on the crater rim underwater creates really good fish habitat, a lot of algae, big kind of kelps, and so we're back this year with our ROV to investigate that further. It's likely that this is going to be one of our primary survey sites for our examination of how penguin colonies affect fish habitat and fish populations themselves.
Oh, wow. And you'll share the findings this afternoon at our briefing when the guests love looking at the footage from the ROV.
Absolutely, yeah. We've captured some amazing footage already this week, and that's always one of my favourite bits of the day, is sharing with everyone on board what we've discovered, what we've seen, and what that means about kind of wider Antarctic ecosystem. So that's initialized. This is the key. It's the coolest key I've ever come across. I really like it. Okay. I can now see what the camera sees. I can see Holly's hand and the reel.
There she goes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So who came to visit the science boat today? Ah, excellent. It was so wonderful of you all to come across, and I do really enjoy you coming to see the science in action and what we're doing, and sort of helping to share that with you. It's always a great part of my job, so thank you very much for coming and visiting. So today we were testing our ROV. That's a remotely operated vehicle, kind of like an underwater drone. And this is what our ROV looks like. The reason we were testing it is because yesterday I upgraded it to add a depth sounder underneath. And what that enables us to do is to lock the height above the seabed when we're flying it underwater. That's really useful because later on in the season, we're going to be using it for surveys of the seabed and fixing the camera height above the seabed and make sure that we get really good data from it. Today, of course, was just a test rather than full-on surveys, so we were able to do some exploration too, and this was really great fun. So we started in the shallow waters, but then we went down much, much deeper. And the reason that that's important is because the shallow waters where we were cruising today, they suffer from ice scour, so icebergs ground on them. So if you're an animal that lives on the seabed, being in those shallow areas is a terrible idea unless you enjoy getting crushed by icebergs. So you have to retreat into the deeper waters, and that's where you're safe from those icebergs. And so we descended down to a depth of about 60 meters, and I'm going to show you a small clip starting at around 40 meters as we head down. So I'm just going to talk you through this. So this is starting, and we can see here on the bottom a crinoid. Crinoids are beautiful, beautiful animals. They have these long arms that stretch out into the water column. They are suspension feeders, so grabbing little bits of nutrient from the water column and bringing them to their mouth to feed. Crinoids have been on the planet for about 500 million years. We have really old fossils of these animals, and so this is a little bit like looking back in time to what the seas would be in the Silurian or something like that. We've seen a few other animals. So we've got here, we've got some sea stars. You can see a few more animals coming up ahead. So that's a Gorgonian sea pen. We've got, I'm going to pause it in just a second. Just there. So I wanted to point out this weird animal here. So it looks a bit like a figure of 8 on the seafloor. That's an Antarctic clam. And so they bury themselves in the sediment, and the figure of 8 is in an in and an out siphon. So they are filter feeders. They take in water, extract all the nutrients, then pump it back out. Up there, we've got a soft coral. That's the kind of bushy, sticky up bit. And then the thin whips are Gorgonian sea pens. Let's let that play a little more. So here we are flying over.
Considering that it was a brand new ship and a brand new place for us, we delivered an awful lot of science last year. We deployed what we call baited remote underwater video systems, or BRUVs. These are baited cameras that go on the seabed. This was part of a collaboration we had with the University of Western Australia. It's part of a global monitoring project of which we are one kind of institution helping that science. And so it's us and the British Antarctic Survey which are responsible for deploying these cameras in Antarctica. And we managed 60 deployments last season. And actually it was a short season because we didn't start until January. So that was incredibly successful. And through that, we were able to learn an awful lot about sort of fish distributions around the Antarctic Peninsula. And of course, it was incredibly engaging for our guests. We were able to show them on the big screen in that aula what was underneath the waves every single day after our landing.
Oh, wow. You mentioned at the NOAA launch that Viking Atlantis and Viking Polaris are the only 2 commercial ships, non-governmental, that work with NOAA to launch balloons. How do we compare, I love being part of the family, compare with some of the research vessels? I mean, this level of science is very high. How do the capabilities compare with some of the research vessels?
Well, throughout my career, I've been lucky enough to work on a number of government research vessels, and so I've got a good experience of this. But actually, the facilities on board Viking Polaris and Viking Atlantis are comparable and in some ways surpass that. None of those research vessels that I've worked on have submersibles, and we are using those for science. In fact, our first scientific publication is coming from stuff that we discovered in Antarctica last season from our submersibles. So I'm just hovering just at 80 centimeters above the seafloor at the minute. And because of the device that we installed in the lab, this depth sounder, it enables us to just lock the altitude above the seafloor, which means that as the seafloor undulates and goes up and down, the ROV will just maintain the perfect height above it, making sure that our camera footage is nice and smooth and perfect for the surveys. Some of the data sets that we collect go directly to our partners, some of our different scientific institutions that we collaborate with, but much of it as well is written up into publications that we publish from on board.
So real science in real time.
Absolutely.
Surveying areas that haven't been surveyed. Now I know this is where a lot of chinstraps, a large chinstrap colony is. Would that also play into why there are so many fish here, or why the fish aren't here, they're elsewhere?
Absolutely. Well, that's actually completely core to this study that we're doing and why we have the ROV. And a lot of places around the world where you get big bird colonies, all the guano that they produce gets washed off into the nearby water and acts as a form of fertilizer, promoting all the algal growth. And That's been studied a little bit in parts of the world, sort of Arctic and stuff, but never really looked at in great detail in Antarctica. From what we saw on our baited cameras last year, with that increased abundance of algae and increased fish nearby to penguin colonies, that's kind of the core to this study, trying to understand if that is the effect that's happening and to what extent it goes out into the water nearby.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Studying life in Antarctica is absolutely key because Antarctica is like the sentinel to the rest of the world when it comes to climate change. It's one of the most rapidly changing environments and parts of our world in terms of the temperatures that it's experiencing, particularly here on the Antarctic Peninsula. So understanding how that change is affecting here will help us understand how that change might impact the rest of the world.
So Antarctica matters, and the research that Viking Octantis and Viking Polaris, I repeat, is real science, but real science that matters immediately to our understanding of climate change.
Yeah, this is a race against time to understand.
And so it was just lovely to see the diversity down here, a lot more than some of you saw through the aquascope in those shallow waters. And you see the algae growing as well. We've got brittle stars. The brittle stars, of course, in Antarctica are much bigger than the brittle stars we get in elsewhere in the world because they're subject to something called Bergmann's rule. This is analogous to something as well called deep-sea gigantism. We get a lot of bigger animals than they would be otherwise. Marine biologists don't know why that happens yet. It's still a mystery within marine biology. Here we've got some more crinoids, again feeding from particulate matter in the water column, and another soft coral as well. This is this beautiful kind of feather-like animal sticking out into the water column. It is an animal, not a plant. It is actively feeding on nutrients and not from photosynthesis. We've had a few as well, sabellid polychaete worms. These are sometimes called feather duster worms. They are the inspiration of some of the plants that you might remember in James Cameron's Avatar, those kind of Christmas tree type worms, and you touch them and they disappear into the seabed. Here's some larger of our sea stars and some more crinoids again. And I just want you to focus your attention now on the big rock that's appearing in the center of the top screen. And this is one of my favorite animals, and I know some of you have seen these from our submersibles. And this is Labadiaster annulatus, the sea sun star. Sun stars grow really big in Antarctica. They can have 45 arms or so, and they're active predators. We often see them with their arms up in the water column, grabbing prey and bring it down to them. They're another animal that feeds on krill. And so it was wonderful to see this and kind of end our deep part of the dive. You can see here we're at 56 meters, and there it is, the sun star. Beautifully colored, actually, when you get good light on them. And then as we were returning to the surface, we had a little visitor. Look at that guy. So I noticed this guy just whipping past, and I thought, oh, God, I want to film him a bit more. So I'm spinning the ROV round, trying to follow him in the water column, thinking, where is he gone? Where is he gone? Can't find him. He must be somewhere. And he brought his friends back. And so we had a whole group of Gentoo penguins swimming around our ROV, and it was just absolutely wonderful. You should have heard Holly and myself absolutely screaming on the Zodiac with excitement, and I think somebody was trying to radio me at the time, and I wasn't hearing it through my own excitement and screams. So ladies and gentlemen, you've now seen Gentoo penguins both above and below the waves. And I think that's a wonderfully special thing to be able to do on this expedition. And I hope you really enjoyed that. Thank you very much.